Hi guys, this is Lasha from Scarlet Moon Creations, and this is my recent reads video. I think this is number 8 now. I'll be talking about 6 books that I read mostly in the first half of February. So the first thing I want to tell you before I get into the books themselves is I participated in several readathons and also some group reads. So first off, I am still participating in Blackathon, which runs from February 1st to the 29th this year, since we have a leap year. Um, and that is a readathon hosted by Jessie at Bow Ties and Books and the novel Lush. I don't know why I'm forgetting her name, but links in the description down below. I also participated in Contemporaryathon, which is hosted by several people. Actually, I don't even know why I'm making a fuss because I have, yeah. Contemporaryathon is hosted by Chelsea Darling Reads, Pages and Pens, and my reading is Odd. And then Blackathon, yeah, Bow Ties and Books, and the novel Lush. I've also participated in another readathon, but that'll be in the next video. I Blackathon is not finished, so I will have more books to talk about again in the next wrap up recent reads video. So let's jump into the books because it's already past 2 minutes. The first book I want to talk about is Moon Called by Patricia Briggs. I read this actually in the last week of January. That's when I finished it, but this was the February group read for Creatures Everywhere, which is a Goodreads group. And yeah, this was the February pick. I own this entire series except for obviously the book that's coming out in a couple of weeks. And I had wanted to reread this series because I love it. It's a good series. This is book 1 in the Mercy Thompson series. Paranormal, I guess romance, yeah. Paranormal romance series, urban fantasy. We follow Mercy Thompson. I think I've talked about this series in one of my ongoing series videos. I'll link it up above and in the description. But I have yet to reread this from the start, and I wanted to, like I said, and then it came up, and I couldn't wait until February. So since I own them, I read it. It's been a while. I had forgotten, a couple of the relationships and how they started in the beginning of this. So the gist is basically that Mercy is a shapeshifter, not in the way that werewolves are, because werewolves exist in here. She is a coyote shifter, and she's minding her business, being a mechanic in her shop, and she, through other people, comes across some issues happening in the supernatural community. This is an urban fantasy series where humans know about some of the supernatural races, but not others, and the others are trying to figure out how they want, or if they want to come out, basically. And it's all very not political, but turbulent and emotional, and Mercy gets mixed up in crazy things. People are being hunted, people are dying, and this is happening around her shop, and she's just the innocent bystander, but not willing to just let things be. So that's it about Mercy. Let me stop going on and on. So yeah, Creatures Everywhere is a group that I'm part of in on Goodreads. The next book that I read was book 3 in the Harry Potter series, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. I actually listened to the audio book for this, but I have a physical copy, so much easier for me to hold up the book than to edit in the picture later. So yeah, I gave this 5 stars. I have to go back on my Goodreads and check, but this was definitely a jump in interest for me because we start getting more adult issues in here. Um, the kids are a little bit older. It's just a new year. They're 13, I think. Yeah, 11, 12, 13. Or at least Harry's 13. And we start getting like more adults knowing, the shenanigans they're getting into, more adults listening to them, particularly Professor Lupin in this one. We get a lot more background on Harry's parents and his godfather and what happened just before his parents were killed and how everyone was feeling. We know more about his parents' friends and family, and it's I really like, the kind of the culmination at the end where everything is revealed, and you see like adults are not perfect. They are just as well, slaves to their emotions, I guess, as much as these teenagers are. Some of them are carrying chips on their shoulders from their teenage years, and I really like that. The stakes are higher. In the last 2 books, we get, there is danger, but it's more psychological. There's physical danger, but and like they could have died, but they didn't. And here it's more physical than ever before. The Dementors start showing up, and that's a whole other level. Like that's the other thing. The magic level jumps a lot, and I think this is the book where I was like, okay. Like before the first 2 books in the series, it was, oh, this is a magical world. It's amazing, and you feel bad for Harry, but it's amazing. And now it's like, oh, but shit's going down on multiple levels, and I don't know. So yeah, 5 stars for this. I might bump my first 2 books down. If I gave them 5 stars, I'll probably bump them down to 4, maybe 4.5. But yeah, you guys know what this book is about. So moving on. This is part of my Harry Potter reread that I've been wanting to do. I've never reread them, so here we are. The third book I read was an ebook, and this was for the other group reads. I'm pulling it up on my tablet. The other group reads group I'm in is Sauce series of Serious Overload of Series, and the 2020 series that we're reading is the Kitty Norville series, and the first book in that is, if I can get it to show without the glare, and Kitty and the Midnight Hour. This is by Carrie Vaughn. I borrowed the ebook from the library. I thought I had at least this first book, but I didn't. So this is one of the series I'll be rereading, and then finishing or continuing on throughout the year. The goal is to read 12 of the books at minimum, but there's 15 total. I believe it's a complete series now. I didn't double check before I started filming, but I did before now. So this is an adult paranormal romance series. We're following Kitty, who is the bottom of the hierarchy in a werewolf pack. Trigger warnings for rape and like really bad physical assault. Let's call it an animal attack. She was like that. So she is the most submissive, or one of the most submissive members of the pack. She just follows the rules and does what she does, but her job is as a nighttime radio host at a local radio station. So she's a late night host, and that's one of the reasons I was drawn to this show, this series, and one of the reasons I liked it. Um, One day she gets some weirdo asking her about supernatural stuff, and she just goes with it because why not? And her show like explodes from there, and it's called The Midnight Hour. She starts talking to werewolves and other supernatural creatures as giving advice, talking about political things and social issues that they're having, and she's getting more money, getting syndication, and a lot of attention and problems, like from hunters, people who hunt supernatural creatures, from the government, from scientists, from the local vampires, and yeah, it goes from there. She helps like solve a crime, or she's asked to help solve a crime anyway. But this starts off kind of dark, and it doesn't get that much brighter. But you gotta like Kitty. Kitty is kind of boring and plain, and she's like super regular. Um, and I like the other characters in this. Their motives are understandable at varying levels. Um, and yeah, I gave this 4 stars. And yeah, this was a reread for me. I'm going to continue reading the series as we go on. So, next I read... Now we start now we start the Blackathon reads. So Blackathon is a readathon, like I said, who it was set up by. They came up, as far as the reading of books goes, there are 2 teams. There is Team Science Fiction and Fantasy, and then Team Contemporary. Now, I've been wanting to read more contemporary books in general, and plus, round 6 of Contemporaryathon was in February. There's always a round of Contemporaryathon anyway. But then there's also Team Science Fiction and Fantasy, which I am always ready to go. So I picked out, there are 4 prompts for each team, and I just decided to attempt to try to read 8. It doesn't look like that's going to happen, but I will tell you the books that I did read so far in the first half of February. I'll tell you what prompts they fit as we go through. So the first book I read is The Wedding Party by Jasmine Guillory. This is my first Jasmine Guillory novel. I knew I wanted to read one of her books, and in addition to thinking about it for Blackathon, I was considering, or not considering, I'm also in a group, the Black Women Who Plan and Create, which is a planner group, but they have a subgroup, and there's a book club, and the book club read was this book. So I was like, oh. Now the thing is, I've never read Jasmine Guillory before. I did not realize that there was a series. I didn't know anything about her books. I confused this with The Wedding Date, and did not realize that The Wedding Date is the first book in the series. So I have not read the first 2 books in this series. This is book 3 in the Wedding Date series. So I don't have the background that was necessary for this book somewhat, but I still enjoyed it. I gave it 3.5 stars. I might bump that up. I do want to go back and read The Wedding Date and The Proposal, which are the first two books in the series, and see if that fixes some of the issues I had. This is adult contemporary romance. We follow Maddie and Theo, who are Alexa's best friends, and I think Alexa is the heroine for The Wedding Date, and she is going to get married. So they've both been her best friends for a very long time, but this is a hate to love. They hate each other, or that's like an extreme reaction. They strongly dislike each other, but over the course of this book, they start to find out that they do like each other, and they start this whole like no relationship. I'm trying to remember what the term is, but just sex thing, and it slowly evolves into them going on dates. All the while, the rule is they can't tell Alexa about anything. They tell no one because they don't want her to make a big deal about it, because it's not a big deal. Their agreement is we have sex, we don't go on dates, we don't tell Alexa, and then once her wedding happens, we're done. Maddie and Theo are both in Alexa's wedding party. That's the name of this. That's why it's called this. I I thought they were kind of stupid. I enjoyed this. I This is like my first adult contemporary romance with black people, and I was very happy to read that. And that's not like an urban novel, I should say. I'm not a huge fan of those, and I haven't read an adult contemporary romance in like a decade. So, this is like a whole new world for me. So I was like, I want to read this, and I enjoyed it because it's very modern, and like I don't get that. Like I don't, and I'm not in a dating scene, and most of my friends are contentedly in relationships. So or never mind. They're contentedly in relationships, committed relationships. So I don't even get to live vicariously through them. What really bothered me was the whole "let's keep it from Alexa" thing. I was like, are you serious? I mean, I get it at first, but after months, this is just a convenience. Also, what really bothered me was the whole hate thing. And I know hate to love usually is not actually hate, but their supposed dislike of each other seemed really flimsy to me. The author like gives it to you in the beginning, like, oh, when they first met, they basically had a misunderstanding, and like she assumes he's a know-it-all because he said something that offended her, and he assumes that she's just this party girl because her job, her focus, her small business is fashion. So he assumes she's like this empty-headed party girl or whatever. And that's when they first met, whenever that was. But it was years and years ago, and they're both Alexa's best friends. Y'all didn't learn about each other at all in that time. You were so strongly hating each other that as her best friends that she hangs out with a lot, y'all didn't even get anything through her. Like, you couldn't even be like, oh, well, if my best friend, my ride or die, who knows everything about me, they if she doesn't trust this person and she doesn't think of this person this way, I can't, like adjust my thinking. No. And then they jumped into bed relatively quickly with each other, and I don't have a problem with that, but then the relationship evolved. They found out that they have some more things in common besides Alexa, despite their differences, because, you know, two different people. But still, like, the littlest thing, and they were automatically reverting back to the negative first impression they had. And I was just like, this is not a job. This is not, you know, casual acquaintances. You are revolving in each other's world a lot over the years. Why are you still assuming this about each other? It it bothered me. So yeah, 3 stars or 3.5 stars. For Blackathon, what did this? This was obviously a contemporary book. I read this for the Alexa Martin prompt to read a lighthearted work that doesn't center around the struggle. And for contemporaryathon, this fit a lot of prompts. This fit the new to me author, which pretty much everything I read for contemporaryathon did. This also fit the illustrated cover and diverse contemporary. Next up, I read my second contemporaryathon pick, which is Eliza and Her Monsters. This is by Francesca Zappia. I think I'm pronouncing that right. I want to show you guys this cover, which I think is unique and cute. So, this book I really enjoyed. I gave it 4.5 stars, I think. Like, I liked it partially because it's kind of mixed media. There are, if you can see, text in here and also another story happening, artwork and whatnot, chat. So this is about Eliza Merck. She is kind of a loner and like the uber loner. She talks to no one at school. She doesn't think about her appearance at all, and she's just trying to make it through her last semester or her last year in high school to graduate. But online, she is the anonymous creator of a super popular webcomic called Monstrous Sea. So this is told in like a dual story. So we have Eliza's life happening both on and offline, but also the story, the webcomic Monstrous Sea. So that's why we get some of the artwork and the story. And I like how on the parts where we get the Monstrous Sea story, the page color changes, and the bottom of the page, it says Monstrous Sea rather than Eliza and Her Monsters. So it's like a whole nother book is in here, or a part of it anyway. This is a YA contemporary. I just really enjoyed this. So Eliza is kind of an introvert. Her parents are like more extroverted and they're very physical, so they like exercising and doing sports and stuff, and they don't understand why their oldest child doesn't. They're trying. She's not trying that much, but I don't think that she really knows how to like make it clear to them that her online life, because she treats Monster Sea creating it's a job. And basically, Eliza meets one of her fans who doesn't realize who she is because she's anonymous online. They tell her that they are a fan fiction writer. They tell her who they are, and it's like her #1 fan fiction writer, or the most popular one, and they start a relationship from there. I like that relationship between the two of them on and offline. I understand how things went with Wallace, and like his living circumstances are different from hers. Like her family, their economic status is different, and family support is different. I love her younger brothers. They reminded me of honestly, her whole family reminded me of The Incredibles. The two younger brothers reminded me, I forget who the middle brother's name is in The Incredibles, but they both remind me of him. They're very sporty, but we find out they have like more depth. They're not like carbon copies of their parents. And I don't, this is not like something goes down, and I'm trying to remind. Oh yeah, so Eliza becomes anonymous. She gets revealed and has to deal with all the backlash of that. And I really appreciated. I hate saying this; it makes me sound like an old person, but again, I have like a 10-year gap of when I wasn't reading books, and these types of things didn't exist before that. So it's like the whole you can be a webcomic creator and make a ton of money and have a whole life online and like nothing really interesting in real life. That's real. The what can happen when you go from being popular and anonymous to popular and well known is very valid and real. How her family situation is, how Walter's family situation is. All of this is just so real and understandable. Like I said, I don't feel like anyone was to blame with this. Some people, I've read reviews, they were like, oh, of once again reading a book where the parents are the bad guys. I don't think they're the bad guys in this. I don't think Eliza's the bad guy either. It's just is what it is. And they didn't have neither side had a way of communicating with the other where they can understand each other, and that's valid as well. I guess trigger warnings for anxiety and some and cyberbullying, cyber stalking, that kind of thing. I gave this 4.5 stars, I think. I loved it. For contemporaryathon, I read this to fit the prompt for green on the cover, and the beloved by another book person. I think I first heard about this through, so sorry for that. I first heard about this, I think, from Chelsea Darling Reads, and yeah, this was one of her favorites whenever she read it, and it is one of mine now. Next, I've got the last book I'm going to talk about. This I read for Blackathon, and this is Goldie Vance Volume 2. And this is by Hope Larson and illustrated by Brittany Williams. I want to find, and colored by Sarah Stern. So I read Volume 1 last year for Blackathon, and I finally picked up Volume 2. I'm reading this slow because there's only 4 volumes out. There are 4 chapters each, and since it's a since it's a graphic novel, it goes quick. But like I said last year, I love the art style. This, we're following Goldie Marigold Vance, the little one here. She's tiny, but she is a teenager. And it's, like I said, I think last time, it's like Nancy Drew. She's a mystery detective wannabe, and she gets in a lot of stuff. And it's diverse, as you can see. This is Goldie and her best friend, oh god, Cheryl, and there's Walter, and I think this is Diane. I think her name was Diane. Diane here is Goldie's girlfriend, and all I can say is get a girl to both of them. So this is LGBT. it's set in like the 50s or the 60s, and Goldie, her father is a detective that works out of, oh no, her father is a manager of a resort hotel, and Walter here is an actual detective that has an office in there. And so Goldie wants to be like him, so she investigates cases and stuff, and she works at the hotel as a valet, and because she loves cars. So there's some car talk in all of these. This mystery, these 4 chapters, basically Goldie and Cheryl find this woman passed out on the beach in a NASA spacesuit. And they bring her to the hospital. The woman disappears from the hospital, as does Cheryl. And Goldie tries to figure out where they went, what happened to them, and why they found this woman the way they did. The mysteries are literally in some cases out of this world, like the reasoning behind them. And it's weird, but I still like it. I like the art style, I like the relationships, and I like kind of the off the wall mysteries that are had. So those are the books I read for the first half of February and like the last week of January. I will be back soon with the rest of my reads. Oh, before I forget, because I almost did just then, this book fulfilled the prompt. I put this on Team Sci-Fi and Fantasy because the mystery is quite ridiculous. It definitely falls into that category. So that I put this for Janelle Monáe prompt to read an LGBTQIA plus science fiction and fantasy book with a black protagonist. And that is it. Let me know if you've read any of these books, what you think of them, and what you think of what I thought of them. Let's talk in the comments, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks so much for watching. I have my social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Goodreads down in the description below. Bye.